Hello everybody, we are back here with regular Not Your Mother's Goose. I'm Topher Goggin, and I hope you enjoyed our last two Rapunzel's Jukebox special episodes with Andrew Mitchell guesting. If you didn't catch those, please go back and check them out. But now it's time to get back at it, as today we start a 3-episode series where we'll tackle the 90s childhood TV fave, The Disney Afternoon. Ducktales is up first this week, and we'll also relive Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, head to the before and after movies with free Wee Willy, and check in on Wile E. Coyote's invited physics lecture at MIT. Last time we told you about a big announcement, and that is that Not Your Mother's Goose is coming to YouTube. It's your chance to check out and share your favorite show bits in tiny bite-sized pieces, and the first few items are up and ready to go. We're starting with some favorites from Rapunzel's Jukebox. For now, the easiest way to find them is at notyourmothersgoose.com or through the Not Your Mother's Goose Facebook page. There are links in both places, hopefully some embedded stuff. And as we try to build some momentum, I would love it if you would go watch, subscribe, and share a couple of favorites with your friends. Please give that a shot, but not yet, because we've got to head to Duckburg. Ducktales is coming up next. Ducktales. Today we begin a multi-part series on the components of everyone's grade school afternoon viewing schedule, The Disney Afternoon. You know, when it came to youthful TV viewing, you needed a snow day or an illness to stay home and watch The Price is Right. But depending on how long the bus ride home was, you could watch The Disney Afternoon after school 5 days a week. Turns out that a whole bunch of shows rotated onto and out of The Disney Afternoon over the years. But with my apologies to fans of Darkwing Duck, Gummy Bears, Goof Troop, we're going to stick with the 3 core shows, by which I mean the 3 that I watched when I was a kid. And that specifically means DuckTales, Chippendales Rescue Rangers, and Tailspin. If we're going to be honest, you don't remember any more of the episodes of the Disney Afternoon than I do. But if your age is anywhere between, let's say, 30 and 45, you darn well remember the theme songs. All I've got to do is go bump, 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 and you will be physically incapable of doing anything but singing "Life is like a hurricane" and being ready for DuckTales. Woohoo! Of course, if we're going to talk about DuckTales, the real star of the show is not a duck. It is Scrooge McDuck's giant money bin in the backyard. If you haven't seen this thing, Uncle Scrooge builds himself what is basically a grain silo, fills it with his stash of gold coins, and then, and here is the kicker, goes platform diving into his riches. Some kids in the 90s wanted a pool in the yard. DuckTales viewers wanted a money bin. Now, how rich was Uncle Scrooge anyway, if we're asking? And it turns out we know, because back in 2013, the good folks at Forbes magazine released what they called the Fictional 15, their compilation of the 15 richest fictional characters in the world. And who was the world's richest? Was it Tony Stark? No. Richie Rich? Mr. Peanut, he didn't even make the list, though the Monopoly Man did at a solid $1.2 billion. No, with a net worth of $65.4 billion, Scrooge McDuck claimed the title. And surely the folks at Forbes put a great deal of effort into getting that info right, though I did totally use it as a question at a trivia night once. Of course, Scrooge doesn't end up on TV for being rich or for wearing that snazzy Abe Lincoln top hat. Scrooge gets on TV because of his childcare skills. Donald Duck decides to join the Navy. I guess that's the armed forces branch most likely to go pants optional for its recruits, and drops off nephews Huey, Dewey, and Louie to stay with Scrooge for a while and or 4 TV seasons, whichever comes first. Scrooge technically does have a nanny on staff named Mrs. Beakley. Basically, she's what you'd get if you took Cook from Mary Poppins and turned her into a duck. But she gets pulled off duty whenever someone is trying to rob Scrooge because the nephews prove cheaper than a real security staff. Speaking of staff, all of Scrooge's payroll is noteworthy. We got Gizmoduck, that's basically RoboCop if he moonlighted as an accountant. There's Scrooge's pilot, the aptly named Launchpad McQuack, and let's just say that if you're ever on a commercial flight and hear, "From the flight deck, I'm your pilot, Launchpad McQuack," I'd recommend immediately deplaning. And then we've got my personal favorite, Scrooge's staff inventor, Gyro Gearloose. I was actually trying to remember some of Gyro's best inventions and discovered there's a full-page website devoted to them, and you only have to get to the B's, at which point you've encountered butterless buttered popcorn, not to overlook the revolutionary biodegradable clock. There's also a special taffy called Oxy-Chew, which sounds more like something that the late Billy Mays should have been hawking in baseball dugouts. But wait, there's more. There's quite a crew of villains hanging around Duckburg causing Scrooge trouble. We start with the equally Scottish Flintheart Glomgold, who's looking to overtake Scrooge on the Forbes list. Then we've got Magica Dispel, who seems to be the DuckTales version of Natasha from Rocky and Bullwinkle and wants Scrooge's #1 dime. And then there's also the Beagle Boys, a rather inept criminal organization that looks suspiciously like that dog that was always trying to steal the Cookie Crisp cereal. It's hard to believe that Scrooge missed the chance to catch that as a commercial tie-in. To wrap things up, remember that your average DuckTales plot is one of only two choices. And both ways, danger does lurk behind you. That's either because one of the folks I just told you about are trying to rob Scrooge blind, or because Scrooge and the nephews are heading off on some sort of treasure hunt with Scrooge as Indiana Jones just in a different hat. In half an hour, as they say, you might solve a mystery or rewrite history. Of course, sometimes some crimes go slipping through the cracks, and if that happens, you'll need to stay tuned till our next show when we'll check in with the Rescue Rangers. With this behind the music break, we are way behind on our fairy tale news. We better check the headlines and find out what's going on in the fantasy world. Here's what's happening. A new tiger terrorizes the masters as Shere Khan eats half the field. Loan office skeptical of Rumpelstiltskin's income on credit application. And from our academic department, Wile E. Coyote invited for physics lecture. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology announced its latest invited speakers series yesterday, which will be headlined by a keynote physics lecture from Wile E. Coyote. Coyote's talk will focus on multiple areas of cartoon physics, but primarily will center on his hands-on research in delayed onset gravitation. He also plans to touch on his expertise in trans-mountain teleportation via painted railroad tunnel, the effects of giant magnets on rocket-powered roller skates, and entertain audience questions on variability and detonation patterns of mail-order dynamite sticks. Reached for comment, Mr. Coyote noted that he politely declined the honorary doctorate MIT offered with the invitation, as he felt it would be a step down from his current status of super genius. His talk will begin after the conclusion of Yosemite Sam's opening lecture on anger management, which is expected to be fairly short. Speaking of learning, here's another way to get smarter and richer, or at least help your kids do that so they can take care of you in your old age.
Hi, I'm Ron Gobans, CFO here at Dr. Seuss Enterprises. Dr. Seuss has always been synonymous with book literacy, but now we're going a different direction, financial literacy for kids. We've dug through the Doc's old sketches to create his latest book, Fox and Stocks. Start 'em young. There's no better combination than Dr. Seuss's rhymes and the annual returns of the Dow Jones. In Fox and Stocks, your favorite tongue-twisted fox and his buddy Knox are back, this time for a spirited debate about investing that could ruin their friendship. Check it out. Fox buys stocks while Knox hides rocks. Knox knocks stocks as Fox just gawks. Knox then balks when Crocs pick locks. Fox holds stocks, big jocks he talks. Fox rocks stocks, Fort Knox he chalks. Fox squawks, Mox knocks. Knox blocks Fox, so Fox socks Knox. Fox hawks stocks, while Knox gets pox. A follow-up book warning kids about pyramid schemes, green dregs, and scams is scheduled for release next spring. Until then, pick up a copy of Fox and Stocks and put your child on the path to financial security today.
That's the return of our friend John Johnson, who you might last remember as Humpty Dumpty, this time doing some linguistic gymnastics with Fox and Stocks. We'll try to get back to some easier to pronounce language as we check the rest of the headlines. Dumbo foolishly asks sniffling wife if she has a lot of junk in the trunk. Waldo and Carmen Sandiego announce engagement. Good luck finding the wedding. And spring is here. It's time for the outdoor report. Area man done rowing his boat, buys an outboard. Local fisherman John Hodges has always enjoyed a good day on the river, but that doesn't mean he likes having to run the oars. That won't be a problem this summer, though, thanks to the purchase of a new 20-horsepower Evinrude outboard from his local marina. It was just so much rowing this boat, Hodges said with a beaming smile as he attached the new motor to his 12-foot Alumacraft. And I don't care what they say about gently down the stream. You ever think about rowing back up the stream to your truck? Ain't no merrily going on and around there. Armed with the new piece of equipment, Hodges held a press conference to say that he can now take a dinghy whenever he wants to fish. I looked at a bunch of forms of water transport, he noted. I thought about just hiring a fox and riding on his nose, but I heard they don't have the best safety record. My buddy lost an arm or something trying that once. Free Wee Willy. Seems like it's about time for another one of our movie before and after segments, but it's been a bit of a struggle to decide which cinemashup we should do. Swiss Family Robinson Hood seemed promising to me at first, but for the fact that Robin Hood has already been the subject of at least 3 of these things, and about half of the characters in the Disney version live in the trees already. My next idea was the Lion King Lear, but I quickly realized that meant I'd have to read King Lear to find out what it was about, and that wasn't going to happen. More promising, perhaps, would have been the Tortoise and the Hairspray, where the tortoise integrates a local public access foot racing show and proves that animals of all speeds deserve to race. That show definitely has a hit number by the Hare titled You Can't Stop in the Street. But alas, that's not where we're headed. Our destination today is a movie matinee of Free Wee Willy. Alas, this story doesn't involve a very small whale trying to get out of an aquarium to join the cast of Finding Nemo. Instead, a kid named Jesse gets spotted shoplifting from a department store. As he runs from the cops and hides in the bedspread section, he spots a magical mannequin that comes to life every night after the store closes. But there is a problem. Unlike Jeff on the show Today's Special, there's one going back to your 1980s Nickelodeon days, this mannequin doesn't have a snazzy plaid hat and vest. His name is Willy, and he's stuck modeling men's sleepwear. And we're not talking pajama pants. To add to the bad news, when he comes to life in his nightgown, the only thing he gets to do is visit children around town and tell them to go to sleep. Jesse is moved by Wee Willy's plight and hatches a plan to free him from the store forever. Of course, just to keep the plot interesting, this plan will run into all kinds of mannequin-related difficulties, mainly limbs falling off. Though I do think we should keep the scene where we haul Willy around town on a trailer and hose him off at a car wash just for nostalgia. To cap it off, we end up at the Target where Jesse is a trainee cashier, and there, in a dramatic conclusion, Willy leaps over the checkout counter and runs to freedom, and then the buzzers at the door go off just like they do incorrectly every time I'm buying something embarrassing like Lunchables or Capri Sun. And yes, those are for me. Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Unlike the title might suggest, it turns out that Alibaba is not actually running some sort of mafia family with 40 pickpockets on his staff. It also turns out that the part of the story that you remember, the whole Open Sesame seed bun, is actually just a small part of the Big Mac. So just like when I go through the drive-thru order but say, no lettuce, no onions, no tomato, no sauce, now we're going to take a look at the parts of the burger I missed. Alibaba is a poor woodcutter, fortunately not one who ditches his children in a forest with gingerbread houses, though. One day he encounters a marauding gang of bandits, so he hides in a tree survivor style and listens in while they have a business meeting outside their headquarters. Let's talk about these thieves for a second. They are very, very good at stealing. What they are not, however, is a group of cybersecurity wizards. They order themselves a nice storage cave for their loot, but when it comes time to set the password, they just go with Sesame. You'd think, with 40 goons on their staff, someone might have suggested something a little stronger, Sesame 4 $, or at least replace Sesame with, say, 321_contact. Using his extendable ears, Alibaba listens in as the crooks announce Open Sesame to the cave, waits for them to depart, then heads in and helps himself to a few bags of gold. Then he proves to be much better than I am at remembering to close the cupboards in my kitchen, declaring, "Close Sesame" on the way out. Since the thieves seem to have more cash and riches than the Visa Corporation in this cave, they don't even notice that Alibaba has made an unauthorized withdrawal. If you're like me, that's about where your knowledge of this story ends. But it turns out that's like the first 10 minutes of a full-length feature, and the rest of the show goes downhill in a hurry. I guess Alibaba didn't listen to Kenny Rogers much, as he decides he should count his money and borrows a scale from his sister-in-law. She quickly figures out that he's probably not weighing kitchen ingredients. Alibaba's brother Kasim then demands the secret of the cave for himself, Open Sesame's his way in, and finds himself sporting the dropped jaw normally reserved for your Aunt Lucy that first time she walked into a Bed Bath & Beyond. Unfortunately for Kasim, he forgets to use the doorstop, and once the cave locks him in, forgets the magic phrase as well. Since Open Barley doesn't get him out and his only recovery email is an old AOL account, he ends up stuck inside. That ends particularly poorly when the thieves come back and they off him. So much for that idea. Moving now to the what else could go wrong department of this story, and you may need to take some notes here just to keep track. Alibaba next heads back to the cave to grab Kasim's body. This, of course, tips off the thieves that someone else has breached their security. They track down Alibaba and send one of their crew to town to mark the door of his house for a hit, but one of Alibaba's servants saves the day by marking all the other houses in town too. After this process happens with a second thief, the remaining crew whack their two incompetent members. This story is actually more mafia-esque than I realized, and we're down to Alibaba and the 38 thieves. Next, the head thief tries to sneak into Alibaba's house by posing as an Avon salesman offering some handsome oil jars, failing to mention that 37 of the 38 jars come with a free murderous robber inside. Once again, the servant figures this out and conveniently pours boiling oil into the jars, proving not so popular with the bandits who are stashed inside. So now, if you're keeping count, we are at Alibaba and the one thief. The final crook tries to play the long game by going after Alibaba's kid, but the servant kills him too, and now we've got Alibaba and the major signing bonus for the finally freed servant. That servant actually ends up marrying Alibaba Jr. if you're still with us, and if they're smart, I'm guessing they registered at the Sesame Cave. Goofy over sports. Here at Not Your Mother's Goose, we always want to take time to recognize the amazing accomplishments achieved in the fairy tale community. And the best way to do that, of course, is with the occasional award. So we're going to wrap up today's show with just such a distinction, presenting the Not Your Mother's Goose Prize for Career Achievement in Athletics to Goofy. Now, this battle was hotly contested, with Mr. Incredible putting forth a resume that was hard to ignore. But many of the world's great athletes are known just by one name. Tiger, Michael, Serena, LeBron, Magic. But if you want the real one-named GOAT, the greatest of all time across all disciplines, there is only one athletic expert on the table, Goofy. Plenty of athletes excelled at one sport, but you generally weren't sending Roger Federer out to start at quarterback for the Steelers, and nobody let Simone Biles into the slam dunk contest, though that would have been awesome. Now, you did have a few folks go pro in multiple sports. Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, Ash Barty, and the always popular combo of tennis and professional cricket. But if you wanted somebody who could play literally every sport, Goofy is the guy for you, or the whatever a Goofy is for you. As those of you who have checked out the Goofy Over Sports 30 for 30 series of videos know, if you can name it, Goofy played it. Only perhaps the short documentary Dorf on Golf, and its follow-up, Dorf Goes Auto Racing, begin to compare with the breadth of Goofy's experience. Football, basketball, boxing, smacking the crap out of someone with a glove before regular boxing in the self-defense videos. The Goof was an expert in everything. And with this impressive expertise, he was generous in sharing his skills through instructional videos on every sport from horseback riding to swimming in an awesome striped muumuu. With a quality level of instruction rivaling when folks give an 8-year-old a TikTok account and have her start doing makeup tutorials, Goofy reached the pinnacle of achievement in his guide to skiing. Featuring the ski skill of a 4-year-old in the French fry pizza phase, the physics of Wile E. Coyote, and the yodeling of the cliffhangers game on The Price is Right, viewers left ready for a trip to the Swiss Alps as soon as they finished the upgrade to their health insurance. Yoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Oh boy. So there you have it. Your winner for the Not Your Mother's Goose Award in sports, Goofy. Tune in next time when we'll give out our trophy for career achievement in the culinary arts to co-winners, The Witch with the Gingerbread House in Hansel and Gretel, and The Little Red Hen. Okay, the original plan was to wrap up this show with Goofy, but I'm going to add one more thing with a quick tribute here. We lost a member of the Not Your Mother's Goose family last week with the passing of my cousin Pat, who you may better remember as Roy from the Rub-a-Dub Tubs ad. An incredible person and volunteer who I've seen referred to as the glue that holds Cadillac, Michigan together. Pat was certainly one of the good ones, and someone who had no problem poking a little fun at himself by endorsing giant fairy tale bathtubs. In Pat's honor, I thought we'd actually close out the show by replaying Rub-a-Dub Tubs, so here's Cousin Pat as Roy one more time.
Hi, I'm Candlestick Maker. Let's just go with Roy. You know what used to bug me? Small bathtubs. You tried to cram a butcher and a baker in there with you, and there was hardly any room left for the Barbie. Barbecue grill, that is. Like they say in the movies, we're gonna need a bigger tub. But I found the answer.
That's right, Roy. Rub-a-Dub Tubs is your one-stop shop for all the world's biggest bathtubs. Check out our Tub of the Month, the Bathmaster 2500 XL. Known as the Cadillac of bathtubs, this spacious model comes with a stainless steel gooseneck faucet, a drain, plus a mount for a 64-inch TV and a pony keg. You can host a party for 8 and wash your hair all in one evening. With free delivery and installation, you'll be singing Rubber Ducky with the whole neighborhood by the end of the day. Your satisfaction is certain, as Rub-a-Dub Tubs is the home of the all suds, no duds guarantee. Call us today, and remember, if you find a tub for less, we'll bathe in it ourselves.
Thanks again, Pat and Sally, for that work on Rub-a-Dub Tubs last year, coming back today as a tribute to the late Pat Goggin. Man, we're going to miss you. That brings us to the end of another show, episode 33, if you can believe it. That's a winning number if I've ever heard one. Remember, please do me a favor and check out some of our new entries on YouTube, which you can find links to over at notyourmothersgoose.com or our Facebook page. It's all Rapunzel's Jukebox for now. Speaking of which, Andrew Mitchell is back in the tower working up something special from the Hollies for next time. We'll also continue with the Disney Afternoon and check out Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers, and we'll update the news where disaster is struck at the new Pac-Man musical. Thanks so much for listening and supporting the show. That's what keeps us going and having so much fun. For John Johnson and Pat and Sally Goggin, I'm Topher Goggin, and the Goose is loose. Start the countdown to the next one. We'll see you in 3 weeks on Not Your Mother's Goose.